In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. The floor is all yours, Mr. Justin. I don't know why I needed to use the mic for this, but I just wanted to do it. I don't know why I used the mic for this, but I just did. So, yeah. I need to seek counseling.
It was a second ago. In the meantime, menti.com. You're familiar with it? I'll give you a new code, okay? So, menti.com. The code is 47878492. 47878492. Sure, yes. 47878492. 8492. There we go. Thank you so much. Greatest husband of all time. Okay. Yeah, sure. Actually, thank you. Here is the QR code if you want. Oh no. Wait. Okay, hold on. I'm so sorry about this. Let me see if I can fix this. Why did it do that? Okay, let's try this. Is it working? Okay.
Justin, my only 2 cents regarding this, if we do the menti, let's not do it besides our partner. That's my recommendation.
Do you want to shuffle around? Perfect, thank you. Yeah, you know what? I could do that. We could shuffle around next time. You could hide your phones. The one time I say you should hide your phones from your partner. All right, looks like most of you have filled it out, so I'll give you another 2 minutes just for the remaining couple of people. All right, do you need a little bit more time or you're good? Okay, let's start. So, second talk. Welcome to the second talk of the series. Today I'm going to be talking about buying in, right? I'm going to be selling you some timeshares. Obviously not, obviously not. No, we're going to be talking about buying in. So, the first talk was a nice foundation where you learn about the different currencies, right? The different types of acts of love, right? The love languages. Now, what do you do with that? That's what we're going to be talking about. And what are some of the problems that happen, okay? And also, we're going to be talking about how the relationship evolves over time. So the questions that you were asking in the first talk are actually amazing because they really lead into what we're talking about today, and or not today. We're going to be talking about this afternoon. And also some of the things that you asked in your questions are things that we will be addressing now today too. So really good. You're on the same page. So I don't have to introduce myself again, so I'm going to skip all of that. So let's see the results. There we go. Okay. All right. So, first question: what is your relationship status? You're all married. No surprises there. If you're in a relationship, how long have you been together? Again, just as before, most of you have been married or together for at least 10 years, up to 25 years. And then, okay, now the new questions. How satisfied are you with the following aspects of your relationship? So it looks like you are the most satisfied with commitment. You feel like, I think everyone gave a 10, maybe some gave a 9, which is amazing. You all feel very committed to your relationship, which is wonderful. Maybe this is why you're here too. And then trust. It looks like most of you have very high ratings of trust. You're very satisfied with the level of trust in your relationship. And then connection was a little bit lower at 7. We had some people give a 10. I think some people gave an 8. Some people may have given a 6, maybe a 5. And then affection was the next lower one at 6.4. I think a lot of people gave an 8. But there were some people that gave low numbers in terms of affection. Interesting. And then communication had the lowest average. Communication was a 6 out of 10. And it looks like there's a lot of answers there, but maybe the most common answer is 7. So that's interesting. Okay, it's a rough baseline of how you're all feeling in your relationships right now. Next. Oops. Nope. And then I asked you, in which phase do you think your relationship is? One person is in the honeymoon phase. And, okay, I'm not gonna say much there. But 4 of you are in the post-honeymoon slump, where it's after the honeymoon and now things are kind of not so good. And most of you are in the solid phase after the slump, 17. Okay, all right, makes sense. Interesting. Now, how do you feel about your relationship? The vast majority of you want your relationship to work, or all of you want your relationship to work. It makes sense. This is why you're here. 9.5 out of 10. I think our relationship will work. You gave yourselves an average of 9. That makes sense. Okay, this is good. Now, regretful of my choice of spouse, a 2.1. Okay, that makes sense. That's good. Very low number for that one. Maybe there's some people that are feeling a little regretful, but that's okay. Worried that we're drifting apart. The average is 3.4. Most of you, I think, gave a 1, but some of you gave maybe a 5, maybe a 7. Okay. And then certain that I picked the right partner, average 8.8. Most of you gave a 10. I think some of you gave an 8, maybe a 5. Okay. So this is good overall. Some people might have some concerns. That's okay. This is why we're here. All right, next. How long did you date your partner before deciding to get married? I'm glad I asked this question because in the first talk, talking to the youth who are in the dating phase, they asked this question. They're like, how long should we date before we get married? So now we have empirical data where we actually get to see what most people do. And the answer is most people do under 5 years. Makes sense. So, most common is a year to 5 years, but some of you before under a year. Okay, makes sense. So wide variety, wide range. Sorry? Oh, the youth. What did I say to the youth? Oh, they asked, how long should you wait before getting married, or how long? Do you remember the exact wording of the question, Abuna? Yeah. Yes. For the streaming, what's the right period dating for they know before they get they made the right choice for the right partner? Yeah. The answer. I don't have the answer. I think it's different for everyone, but what I told them was essentially it's worth taking the time to get to know your partner because this is the biggest decision of your life. The goal is not to ever break up. So even if it means waiting after the honeymoon phase is over, because honeymoon is not necessarily at the honeymoon, it's in the beginning of the relationship. Even if you do, that's okay, but of course you're balancing other aspects, other demands, other issues. So, yeah. No, that's excellent. I'm glad you asked that. I love talking about this stuff. So, this is good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but clearly, as you can see, if we're looking at data, because I like to approach things scientifically, so the vast majority of you are happy in your relationship, yet you have a very broad range of duration before getting married. So it must mean that it could work, whether it's a year, whether it's 4 years, Okay, awesome. Next, using one or two word answers, what are your favorite things about your relationship? Commitment is the most popular. Oh, interesting. And that's what was the most high rated part of your relationship. And then trust, love, honesty, friendship, respect, kindness, loving, best friend, humor, safety, friendship, BFF, someone put, support, respectful, togetherness, Lots of great stuff in there. This is good. This warms my heart to see, you reflect on the nice parts of your relationship. Okay. Next one was least favorite things about your relationship. Okay. So we got conflict, communication, miscommunication. So I think you can lump communication and miscommunication together. Conflict, patience, nothing, some carelessness, fights, shape. The alone zone, talking about feelings, people around us, perceived disrespect, time management, relaxing activity, loud arguments, habits, neglect, money, constant reminders, temper. It's okay. We can work on these things together. There is hope. Don't worry. All right. And then what is your gender? 10 and 10, or 10 and 11? Okay, wonderful. So, you know the drill. Questions that are anonymous, feel free to ask them after. Or ask them out loud, ask them in the middle of the talk, whatever you want, whenever you want. Here to help, here to serve. Okay, so let's talk about, buying in. So let's review, okay? Let's review. So how did this all start? How did you get here? I'm not talking about what car did you drive to get to church. I'm talking about you, your spouse. How did you get here? Maybe you remember 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15, 5, whatever. This was you, right? You were alone, looking for love, hoping to find the one, eating by yourself, waiting. Oh, maybe one day I'm going to find my prince or my princess. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Lord, won't you show him or her to me, please? I promise I'll be good. And then what happens? You start going on some, coffee dates with some people. You start meeting people at some, events and group gatherings. And maybe you start, calling people or, talking on the phone. Maybe you start, getting to know each other. And, then there's that one person that stands out above the rest. And you're like, oh, I laugh with them. I have a good time with them, right? And then, you go on some walks on the beach together, start spending some nicer quality time together, and you're noticing you're getting more connected and things are going nicely. And then, you talk to your father of confession, you talk to your parents, talk to your best friends, you pray about it, you think about it, you maybe talk to your therapist about it, I don't know, maybe. And then you decide, you know what, this is the one for me. So maybe you propose, or you are proposed to. And, oh, wow, the proposal. Or maybe it was in an email, who knows. And then, it's like fireworks and magic and excitement, and it's so happy, and this is like the nicest time of your life, maybe, right? And it's so wonderful, and it's like, wow, Jesus Christ is risen, and I have a fiance. It's like amazing, right? And then, you have the wedding and, crowns of glory and, that's great. The capes, that's me and Sarah, by the way. And then you do the speeches and you're laughing and you're putting cake in each other's mouths and, life's great and, and then you're dancing with your friends maybe and, having a fun time. Life's good, right? And then what? And then you go on your honeymoon, to some tropical destination, or maybe someplace in Europe, or maybe you didn't go on a honeymoon, which is okay. Some people don't. That's understandable. And you get some pictures, and then what happens then? You get a house together, right? Oh, that's magical. Wow, our own place. No longer, maybe you're living with parents, no longer have to live with our parents, And then maybe, you do the maternity shoot, right? Where there's the bump, and then there's the photographer, and then there's the it's all nice and cute and everything. And then the babies come, and the chores come, and the cleaning, and the diapers, and the laundry and the dishes, and no more celebrating, no more mabruk. You know, it's just, hey, how's it going? You know, it's just, right? And then work, you know, you still have to pay for everything, you know. You got to pay for all the whatever, bottles and toys and activities, and maybe you got to pay the mortgage, and you got to, you know, pay for food and the car and everything, and you're pulling late nights, and it's getting really tiring. Maybe you're commuting. You know, if you were in Ontario, I'd make a joke about the highways and how horrible they are. I don't know what the commute is like to work for the typical Calgary. Not too bad, right? Okay, ignore the slide, because you have an amazing life here in a better province. I understand. So ignore this. I'm just kidding. But, you know, and then things, maybe time together starts to decrease. Maybe you're starting to feel overwhelmed with things, and then maybe everything starts to pile up and you get tired, and there's chores that don't get done, and there's tasks that need to be completed. And then, you know, there's kids, maybe there's kids that are, you know, getting more and more of your time and attention, and you're juggling so much, and it's getting tiring, it's getting exhausting. And then, again, you're starting to feel even more disconnected for some reason. And then maybe the disconnection starts to turn into some arguments. Maybe the arguments are getting more frequent. Maybe the arguments start to turn into some screaming matches, some fights. Things are getting intense. And it's like, what happened, right? And then you're starting to feel really disconnected. And maybe that even impacts, you know, your own intimacy. Your own intimacy. Maybe you're feeling a lot more disconnected than you ever were. And then you're asking yourself, what on earth happened? How did we get here? What happened to the fireworks? What happened to, you know, the crowns and the capes and the speeches and, you know, the fun dancing and all of that stuff? What happened? What's going on? What will our future look like? Hopefully, this doesn't happen necessarily to everyone, but it does happen sometimes. Because we do go through a roller coaster in the married life. So in the beginning, there's the excitement phase. Things are amazing, and that's also leading to the honeymoon phase. And then after the honeymoon phase, sometimes things they get shocked and they start to crash. Because life happens, and also because the honeymoon phase is a temporary phase, whether we like it or not. And then some people call this the depressing phase after the shock. But then hopefully there is a recovery phase, which seems like a lot of you are in that phase, which is wonderful. So we're going to look deeper at the process after the honeymoon phase and what might lead some couples to get into a cycle that might lead to not separation, but disconnection, okay? And then obviously what we can do about that. But before, it's important that we define some terms. So the first one is acts of love. And this is why this is a great talk after love languages, because we've already talked about this. So acts of love are basically anything that you do to show love, which can be any of the love languages, one of the 5, or even additional to the 5. So obviously there's kind words, chores, errands, favors, gifts, physical affection, quality time, etc. But there's other ones, you know, boundaries, doing things a certain way. Basically, I want you to think of it this way: acts of love, anything that makes my partner feel happy or special or loved. All right? So these are AOLs, okay? So AOLs, you're with me, AOL? Good, all right. So let's look at the relationship phases now that we have this definition of AOL. So you're going to answer these questions for me. When you're first dating, how's your excitement level typically? What would you say? High, right? Yeah, high. Okay, yes. Or at least medium when you're first dating. Like when you're not sure of the person, you're just kind of getting to know them. Medium, right? This is what we call the dating phase. Okay, the next. Now, what is my perception of the acts of love that I'm getting from the person that I'm just dating? Again, I'm not sure if they're the right person for me yet. Oh, how do I perceive, is there a level of AOLs towards me, acts of love towards me? What do you think? High, medium, low, somewhat? Medium? Yeah, I would say medium. Or some, right? Like you're getting some acts of love from this person you're just, going on some dates with. And then when you're just dating someone, again, you're not married, you're not in a committed relationship, or like it's not official yet or anything like that. Are your needs met? To what extent are your needs met? Needs met, sorry. What do you think? Are they fully met? Not fully, right? They're not fully met. Okay. And then what about my acts of love towards this person that I'm just dating? What do you think? How much are you giving all of the acts of love, or what? Lots of acts of love? Little? Medium? Medium, right? Some, right? So here's the key that I want you to really consider. The balance between the acts of love, that you are showing to this person you're dating, and the acts of love that this person is giving you, how balanced is it at the dating phase? Yeah, for the most part, it's balanced, right? Especially if it ends up being the person you're choosing to be with forever, it's probably balanced, right? It's equal. How satisfied are you in the dating phase? Medium, right? Yeah, medium, right? You're satisfied, not like overly satisfied, but you're like, okay, this is okay. I'm satisfied. I'm interested in more, right? And how certain are you of this person when you're just dating? What do you think? Yeah, right? Unsure, but maybe you're hopeful, right? Okay, you're like, okay, like maybe there's some potential here, right? They're a nice person. I can see things progressing perhaps. You're maybe a little excited. You're telling your best friend, hey, I went on this date. This person is nice. Okay, so then the honeymoon phase. Okay, now in the honeymoon phase, what's the excitement level? Yeah, say it like it is exciting. High, right? It's high excitement. Now, when I think about the acts of love that my partner gives me in the honeymoon phase, what would I say? High, medium, or low? Right? A lot, a little, or none? A lot, yes. Now, are your needs met? Do you feel like your needs are being met when you're in this honeymoon phase and you're the happiest ever? Yes, absolutely. What about the acts of love that you show towards your partner in the honeymoon phase? Do you think it's a lot, medium, not much? A lot. Yeah, you're giving a lot, you're getting a lot. So do you think the acts of love, are they balanced or not balanced? What do you think? Balanced, yes, they're equal. How satisfied are you when you're in the honeymoon phase? Very satisfied. Okay. How certain are you of the relationship when you're in the honeymoon phase? Very certain. Exactly. You're very sure. You're like, yes, this is the best. Right? Okay. This is the greatest thing, and I've never been happier in my life. All right. Then what happens after the honeymoon phase starts to wear down? Let's call this the post-honeymoon slump. Okay? What's your excitement level? High, medium, low in the post-honeymoon phase? Low, yes. Okay, what is your perception of the acts of love that your partner is giving to you after the honeymoon phase? It's less than mine. This is the key here, right? After the honeymoon phase, you're like, you know what? I've been giving so much love to this person, and I think they're not giving as much love to me back, right? Oops, I skipped. Are your needs being met? Absolutely not. A wonderful job. And then what about the acts of love that you are giving to your partner in the post-honeymoon slump? What do you think? More than what you're getting? Yeah. And because you're not getting enough, your acts of love are probably decreasing. You're like, wait a minute. I'm not getting a lot out of this. I'm going to hold myself back a little bit. So the balance between acts of love that you are getting and that you're giving, what do you think? How do you feel in that moment? It's unequal. It's imbalanced. Maybe you feel like you're getting ripped off. You're like, this is not right. I'm putting in so much more than I'm getting in this relationship. Okay, so how satisfied are you in this phase? How satisfied are you? What do you think? Not very satisfied, right? You're dissatisfied. How certain do you feel about the relationship at this phase? Yeah, now you're feeling uncertain because you're kind of disappointed with how things are. So, this is something that I notice a lot when talking to individuals and couples, is there is this vicious cycle that happens. Let me describe it to you. So, it starts when you feel like your partner is giving you less love than you're giving them, or they're not giving you enough. You're feeling like you're not getting enough from your partner to be happy. And you start to measure your own acts of love. You're like, you know what, I'm dissatisfied. I'm not getting enough affection or words of affirmation or physical touch or quality time. But I'm giving them so much. I'm trying to give them so much. So you know what? I'm going to start keeping track of how much I'm putting in, how much acts of service I'm doing, how many chores I'm doing. I'm going to start to measure that. And then I start to notice maybe I'm doing more than them. Maybe I'm putting in more than they're putting in. And you know what? That's not fair. It's not fair that I'm putting in more than them. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reduce my acts of love so that it feels more fair. I'm going to start to pull back a little bit so that I'm equal with them. I don't want to be getting ripped off. I don't want to be putting in more than they're putting in. So I'm going to put in less. And then what happens is my partner realizes that they're not getting enough. They're like, wait a minute, you're not putting in a lot anymore. That's not fair. And they start to feel like they're getting ripped off. So you know what they do? They start to measure their own acts of love and start to reduce. And then it's a vicious cycle. A vicious cycle where both people just pull apart. If you think of love like money, it's like I'm putting in my whole bank account and you're putting your whole bank account, and then we start to think like, wait a minute, are you putting in more than me? Am I putting in more than you? No, I'm putting in more than you. And then we start to pull and put in less and put in less and put in less. And then at some point, both are putting in so little. And both are just keeping track of who's loving, who's putting in any amount of love. And this is how we often get to separation and divorce. This is how it goes from the honeymoon phase, where everything is great and you're really satisfied and certain and happy, to we get to this. This is not the only reason for separation and divorce, of course. But a lot of the times, when I am working with couples, or I'm working with an individual who maybe went through something like that, a lot of the times, it has something to do with this. What this is what we call transactionalism. Transactionalism. Are you familiar with this term, transactionalism? No? Okay, so what do I mean by transactionalism? Transactionalism is basically the idea that you do something for me and I'll do something for you, okay? It's a business deal. It's in a way, it's like accounting, right? So you have a phone, you pay for your phone bill. The moment you stop paying for your phone bill, the phone provider is going to stop giving you cell service, right? You stop paying for your mortgage, maybe eventually they'll take your house. It's a transaction, right? You don't go to, the pizza place? Señores, yes. You go to Señores, you don't give them money, they don't give you pizza. You give them money, they give you the best pizza in town, right? Yes, Señor's Pizza. Yes? No? Maybe. Okay. All right. So basically, the idea of transactionalism, it makes sense in an economy, right? Trade. I trade this for that. But the idea of transactionalism is that it is conditional. I will give you X if you give me Y. If you do not give me X, I will not give you Y. That is the condition, right? When we think of transactionalism, the priority of transactionalism is my own interests, right? When you go to Senor doesn't care about your bank account. He only cares about his own. He's like, if you give me money, I'll give you pizza, but I'm not here giving pizza for free, right? I don't know, unless if he does. Does he give pizza for free? That would be nice. No, but the idea of transactionalism, it's all about me and my priority and what I want, and if I'm not getting what I need, I'm not giving you anything. The thing about transactionalism is that the transaction is easily made, but also easily broken, right? You stop paying your phone bill, you lose your phone connection. You stop paying your car, they take your car away. So, transactionalism. Now, do you think transactionalism, is there any thoughts about transactionalism in our faith? What does our faith teach us about transactionalism? Any verses related to transactionalism? What do you think? Do you think we are called to treat each other in a transactional way? No? The opposite, okay. Any other thoughts? No? Okay, all right. So, any verses that come up, or would you like me to just read them for you? Okay, I'll read you some verses. In Philippians, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. That's not transactional at all, is it? Okay, how about this one in Corinthians? Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Not, it only perseveres if I'm getting something out of it. Or, there's only hope until the person stops putting in something into it. Right? So, what is the solution to transactionalism? What do you think? To this transactional spiral, downward spiral, what do you think? What's the solution? It's not a trick question. Stop measuring, yeah? Yeah. Instead of measuring, what do? You know the words. Huh? Okay, yeah. Is there, sorry? Communicate, yeah. It was in the title. Huh? Yes. Buying in, which we'll talk about what that looks like. But you buy into the relationship. You invest in the relationship. You put all your chips in. This is the relationship. I am going to buy into it. So what does this mean? What is buying into the relationship? So, buying into the relationship is a commitment to making the relationship work, not a condition that it'll only work if I get what I want. It's a commitment to making it work. Okay? It's a commitment to make your partner satisfied. Okay? Plain and simple. I am committed to make my partner satisfied, happy. And when I say happy, I'm not talking about, in the moment happiness and pleasure and all that stuff. I'm talking about like genuine fulfillment, contentment in the relationship. And that is done through acts of love. That's why we talked about the love languages first. And here's the key. It's done without scorekeeping, without transactionalism. Okay? So, here's the key. You're probably like, oh, wow. So that means that, like, regardless of what my partner does, I have to, love them. Here's the hope. I'm here telling this to both of you. It works if both of you buy into the relationship. Obviously, sometimes one person buys in and the other one doesn't. That is a separate problem. But here, I'm telling both of you to do it. So, buying into the relationship. Can you think of an example of God buying into the relationship with us? Any thoughts? Any ideas? Any verses come to mind? Has God even bought into the relationship with us? What do you think? Yes, right? Did we earn his son? That he's like, okay, you know what? You made enough animal sacrifices in the temple. Now I'm going to give you my son. No, right? So, Romans 5, verse 8, but God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Exactly that, right? We were still sinners, and Christ died for us. It wasn't like we did enough righteousness, and he's like, okay, now I'll give you my son. No. In Titus, we don't get enough verses from Titus, huh? But when the kindness and love of God, our Savior, appeared, he saved us, not because of righteous things we had done, but because of his mercy, right? In 1 John, this is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. So you see here, our faith, the foundation of our Christian faith, is on God buying into the relationship with us. He gave us his ultimate gift, his ultimate act of love, not because we deserved it, and we still don't deserve it. And here's the key. In response, we are called to buy into the relationship with God. We're called to live a Christian life and have a relationship with God. Not because, God will, if we do that, God will give us blessings, or, we're Christian because, there's this kind of barter system or trading with God. We do it for whether we have good days, whether we have bad days, whether tribulation falls on us, or blessings, or anything. We are called to buy into our relationship with God, just as God has bought into his relationship with us. Does that make sense? Any disagreements or maybe concerns or questions about this aspect? No? So here we see the parallel, right? And this was in the first talk as well. There's the parallel of we learn about our how we can succeed in our marriage from the ultimate relationship, the relationship we have with God. God's relationship with us is the example that we have with our spouse. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. So, how do we practically buy into the relationship? You're probably like, okay, Justin, I get it. You gave us verses. You quoted Titus even. What do we actually do? Here are 3 keys. And see, I even found a graphic with 3 keys for you. All right? Hope you appreciate this because now it's gone. All right, so the 3 keys. Let's first talk about the first one, which is communication. Okay? Communication, as you mentioned, I think, or one of you mentioned, is extremely important in a relationship, right? So, with regards to communication, something we talked about in the question Q&A period in the first talk is a myth. The myth is, my partner should know what makes me happy. They should know, right? And if they know, it makes it even more special. It makes it magical, right? When they just know the things that I like. And, if I were to tell them the things that I like, that make me happy, it would defeat the purpose. I understand the intent behind that, but like we talked about, it is a myth. The truth is actually, your partner is not a mind reader. Hopefully, Your partner picks up on cues. Hopefully your partner understands you by this point, but ultimately your partner is not a mind reader. No one is a mind reader. Your therapist is not a mind reader, by the way. I get that all the time. No one is a mind reader. No one knows exactly how you're feeling. No one knows exactly what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy, what really gets you excited, what really gets you frustrated. No one knows you, the inside of you. God is a different story, but in our relationships with other humans, no one knows. It's okay to communicate that. It's okay to have conversations. It's very important to do. So your partner, if you feel like they're not satisfying you, they're probably wanting to satisfy you. They probably want to make you happy. And they probably have been trying to make you happy, but are maybe missing, right? Again, the whole example of gift giving and you don't care about gifts as much as you care about something else. Love languages, the misalignment, right? So they're probably trying to make you happy, but maybe it's not actually what you need. That's why it's so important to communicate your needs and desires. And check in with each other, right? Have regular check-ins. Maybe even make a schedule where every week, for example, you say, okay, we have this 1 hour slot where we're both not working, or maybe the kids are doing activities, or they're still at school, or they're in bed, or whatever, where we talk about how we're feeling in the relationship. We check in. We get like a reading on the thermostat of like, how's the relationship feeling so far? Or this week, how are you feeling? What do you feel you need? What are some things that could be improved? Anything I can do? Anything you appreciate? Anything I appreciate? Check in with each other on a regular basis. So these are things that we do in couple therapy. And what I'm trying to offer to you is you don't necessarily have to go to couple therapy just to talk to each other. Sometimes, a lot of times, the work that we do in couple therapy is I'm helping couples check in with each other, understand each other, connect with each other. So you can do it. You don't have to see a therapist to do that. But it's helpful, obviously, seeing couple therapists. We can guide you through that process. But yeah, regular basis, check in, communicate. All right, so you've communicated. That's step one, right? You've talked about your needs, your desires, your wants, all that kind of stuff, what you need to be happy in the relationship. Number two is, now it's time for effort. Now it's time to actually do the things that your partner would like you to do. That it's time for your partner to do the things you would like them to do. Effort is required. So now that you have awareness, effort is required, but here's the key. Effort must be mutual. That's the key. If it's not mutual, it's easy to fall back in the trap of transactionalism. So, both put in effort. But it's, like I said, it's easy to fall back in measuring and keeping track. So what I want to offer to you is that it must be regular, and also it requires sacrifice. These are investments in the relationship, and investments require spending. Not just money, could be time, could be energy, effort, all that kind of stuff. Time, energy, resources. But also effort on the receiving end. It takes effort to appreciate what your partner is putting in. So maybe you've expressed for the first time ever, you really need this thing that you don't get in the relationship. It doesn't mean that now your partner knows about it and they're putting in effort, you're going to get it 100% and you're going to be happy. Not necessarily. It takes time and effort for them to develop a skill and habit that maybe they didn't have for a long time. That's okay. So it's important to acknowledge and appreciate and also understand that it will never be perfect. Okay? There is no such thing as perfection. And unfortunately, I wish it were the case, but your relationship will never be perfect. You will, one day, when you die, you will look back on your relationship and you will realize, probably you already realize it now, you know what, my relationship was missing a few things, and there was some gaps here and there, and there was some disappointments here and there. It'll never be perfect. It can always improve and get better, and that's okay. But if you're thinking to yourself, I'll only be happy once this is perfect, it'll never be perfect. But that's okay. It could be really, really good, but never perfect. Just like you, just like me. So, effort. That's the number 2 thing. All right, what do you think is number 3? Any ideas? Okay, close. Feedback is part of the communication too, but that's very important. Time is also very important, yes. Any ideas? It starts with a T, just for fun. See if you can guess. The image here might be some sort of inspiration. I don't know. Yes, excellent. Trust, okay? Why trust? Trust is the hardest part. Because like I said, it won't be perfect. You won't get exactly everything you need in the beginning, maybe ever. And like I said, it's easy to fall back into measuring and transactionalism. It will not be smooth, okay? In fact, sometimes things get worse, right? You're hoping that things get better, but sometimes things get worse, right? They go down and then they go up. But the hope is that it's a trend. It's a positive trend that gets better over time. So progress is never linear. And it's not just in your relationship, it's also in everything else. But here's the other thing too about progress, is that sometimes things actually get worse before they get better. So right now, let's say you've never really had conversations about needs and desires and wants and stuff like that. And then you finally decide to have that conversation. It might actually get worse before it gets better. Do you know why? It's very simple. It's because you and your spouse have survived. You've created this equilibrium where there's all these like little issues and things that maybe frustrate you. You put them in a box, you put them on the shelf. You're like, okay, we don't talk about that because that's just really upsetting. And then what this work that I'm inviting you to do is you're taking the box off the shelf and then you're emptying it on the floor. Now there's a big mess. And you're not going to clean the mess in one sitting. It takes time. But the idea is that over time, you work on the mess. And now you have an even cleaner space without a cumbersome box on the shelf. So, whenever we start couple therapy, I always tell clients, you know what? Things might actually get worse before they get better. Because we're going to be talking about things that you've chosen not to talk about for a long time for the sake of harmony. We're going to disrupt the harmony in couple therapy, and that's okay, because the hope is that eventually things do get better than they ever were. This requires trust. This requires patience, time. Okay? It will not be smooth. Feedback, there you go. Feedback and continual communication are very essential. And this only works if you trust that your partner is doing their best. So you start talking about your needs for specific types of love, and you are committing to buying into the relationship, and then you hear your partner say, yes, I am committed to buying into the relationship as well. And then you're going to be like, okay, are they actually buying in? You're going to be sitting and waiting and wondering, but it requires trust that they are actually doing it, even if it's not perfect in the beginning. Okay? So, genuinely committed to making you happy. Hopefully, with communication, with effort, with trust, things improve, and then you go from the post-honeymoon slump to the bought-in phase. That's what I'm calling it, the bought-in phase, okay? So in the bought-in phase, what would you say your excitement level is at? If you've both successfully bought in, what do you think? Sorry? Should be high? Okay. Any other thoughts? Medium? Yeah, I think medium, right? It'll maybe never be as high as the honeymoon phase, but it probably will be better than the slump, right? It'll be medium. And excitement is often tied to novelty, and the novelty is, it does wear off, of course. Okay, what about your perception of your partner's acts of love towards you? Would you say it's a little bit, medium, or lots? Again, assuming both of you have bought in. Sorry? Medium at least, right? Hopefully lots. And what about your needs? Are your needs being met? Yes. Or enough. Your needs are being met enough. Not perfectly. You're not like in the honeymoon phase where you're thinking, oh, this is the best and I couldn't be happier. You could be happier, but you're happy enough. Okay? And then what about the acts of love that you are giving to your partner? Are you giving a little bit, a medium amount, or a lot? Lots, yeah. What about the balance of the acts of love? What do you think? Sorry? Same? You feel like it's balanced? Hopefully, if you both have bought in, it should feel balanced. And this is the idea. You're both putting in your best. And it may not exactly feel balanced every single moment, but you trust that you're both doing your best for each other. And see, that's the idea. So see this, I'm getting ripped off versus I know we're both putting in our best. That difference is the key difference that we're aiming for. Because that leads to you feeling satisfied again in your relationship. And then it leads you as well to feel certain and sure about your relationship again. So those last few boxes, or last few cells, those are what we're aiming for. To reestablish a sense of certainty and satisfaction, and that happens when you know you are both putting in your best. Does that make sense? Any thoughts or questions about that? Okay. So, I like to refer to a verse that is read on your wedding day, okay? I'm sure you know this. It's the Pauline epistle in the sacrament of crowning or matrimony, right? But I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to read the verses in a different order, okay? And you'll see why. So I'm going to start with verse 31. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. The verse right before it, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In this same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does the church, for we are members of his body. And then we get to the first verse that is read. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. And then we end with the very first verse. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. So, in conclusion, the honeymoon phase is great, but it does end, and it's normal to struggle after the honeymoon phase. Your needs may not be met, your acts of love may feel inadequate, and the lack of acts of love can lead to transactionalism. And measuring can lead to restricting your acts of love, and that can lead to a vicious cycle that deteriorates the relationship. But the hope is to buy in the relationship, and we learn this from Christ and his example of always giving unconditional love. So we have 3 keys: communication. Remember, no one is a mind reader. Invest the time in buying in. Put in the effort. Both must be intentional. And of course, there has to be trust, which is the hardest part, but it's needed to succeed. You got this. All right, so any questions? I know this is a shorter talk, but I think I've talked enough. So, are there any questions? Okay. Hi, my name is Mina, and I too think Matthew Buttress is the perfect husband. There you go. That's consensus. He's just so perfect.